Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Let me start blaming you youngs another reason I'm already proud of you. Young brother in chat, even didn't do it. You've shown it in beast. You even when you're young, you are not chasing behind these models and Instagram thoughts anymore. You're done with that, which is good. You should be. You're pretty much saying if you ain't not only bending over, but cooking and cleaning and bending over and supporting me as I get out there and try to make things work, then I'll leave you alone completely. There will be no dates. There will be no opportunities to use me. I have no reason to do anything for you if the price of that, if the recompense for that is going to be celibacy. And if you are withholding the trim because you're chaste and you're just limiting it to a marriage, to a husband, then that's one thing. If you're doing it to not be a thought, then that makes sense. But you're really just doing it to get more in exchange for less. And we're not going for that. You young brothers and a lot of you brothers my age have wised up. But you young brothers have done that, even though it's young brothers that are not biologically most inclined to do so. You're still doing it. You've shown that you can, in fact, bend nature. You may not be able to completely conquer it, but you can bend it and not be conquered by it either. It does not control you. I am vaingloriously proud of you for this, and I have to say vaingloriously proud because it's not just a regular pride. The thing is that 30 years ago, when I was you guys' age, and even a little bit more than that, what I saw was that, for the most part, you gentlemen that are my age didn't listen to the same information that we do now. I did, but you guys didn't. If you're somebody that knows me in person and you knew me back in my teens, you knew that to a certain extent I was on the red pill stuff before we knew the term red pill, before there was an internet in people's homes. You knew this. And I don't really care why you didn't listen. It's just like when I was on the pro-black stuff and you didn't listen. I don't care how young you were. I don't care why you didn't listen. And this is part of why it is that I accept Austin's age as a reason for him to be less experienced with some things, but never to act like a kid. And to his credit, he has never taken his age as an excuse to act like a child. So I'm not chastising him for anything. I don't do straw man arguments here. He didn't say that. I'm not going to correct him for it. I think that this grudge with Joan J is going to come down to a misunderstanding. He's reacting because of what he's been through in Brazil. And she's not even his enemy, but is trying to tell him about a law that really wasn't designed for people like him. But I think they'll figure this out. The question is going to be, what about the rest of the black manosphere and the BMPTs? Will we figure it out? I care about that. I know how we black folk tend to get. And this is one time where we're dealing with a group of people that actually are generally nicer than we are, after what they've been through from the Spaniards, the Japanese, and even the Americans. They're still nicer in general to other tropical people than we are. And this is a new ground for many of us, because a lot of us are just now learning about Southeast Asia. I'm not willing to make them enemies because they were never willing to take us as enemies, with a few minor exceptions. And them not wanting to, their men not preferring sisters is not a reason for them to be enemies. But getting back to this main point here, I want to tell you, gentlemen, that frankly, I'm very proud. I'm very proud of you guys. But I also wanted you all to know that as you pull away, and as many of you are willing to go ahead and be alone for long stretches at a time, especially now that you know that that's a common thing that happens to a lot of men, and it doesn't make you a failure, because it's been going on for millennia. Now that we know that, you're better able to do it. But I also wanted to tell you this. there are going to be guys that are going to come along, and these guys are not interested in women. These guys are also not interested in each other. These guys are interested in straight men. And they're going to come along and they're going to see that many of you are by yourselves, and they're going to try to offer to fill in those gaps. And you're going to have to look and say, no. If you don't think there's anything wrong with that lifestyle, and I unabashedly do because I'm Muslim, it's nothing personal, it's just the rules. But if you don't think there's anything wrong with that lifestyle, you're still going to have to be willing to say, hell knucking foe. And any guys that decide, because there are going to be some who say, yeah, you know what, why the hell not, it don't make a difference anyway. Any guys that do decide that cannot be black manosphere. I'll leave it to the white manosphere to decide if they can be part of that manosphere or not, but we can't have them as being black manosphere. Because the truth be told, anytime we're willing to accept something previously unknown to us, it's weaponized against us. It doesn't matter if it's a narcotic or if it's that kind of lifestyle. We still live in a racist world, and they're going to weaponize against us whatever they can. And it's not even going to be regular run-of-the-mill rank and file white folks that are going to do it, because they don't make a lot of these decisions. There will be cogs in the machine unknowingly or knowingly. But those who make their decisions for them are going to weaponize these things against us. Hell, they'll weaponize them against regular rank and file members of their own race. So you say, why would they blind? Well, it is. Why would they? What I should understand about the interest in the agenda, in their agenda, they're interested in the straight and appropriate behavior of their agenda. So women want women to act like women, and those are also the women that tend to like men. And the men that want men tend to want men who act like men, and those are generally men that like women. That's what they're looking for. While guys that lose community, they're not to either. This is what they're looking case. I think that maybe, and some are going to take offense at what I'm saying, even though I'm not really talking to them. But understand that feminism, though it started with a valid concern, women's rights, understand that feminism was started by such women that didn't want anything to do with men. They wanted something to do with women, but the women they wanted were the women that liked men, and they knew that they were going to have to drive a wedge between straight women and men to get a shot at these straight women, and they did it, and it worked to a certain extent, but not enough. And so I wanted you all to understand how it even got started. Misandry was always the end game. This militant hatred of men was always the end game, and it's always going to be the end game, every single time. They took something that was righteous, women's rights, equality, but they were talking about what is morally true and correct for incorrect reasons. You know, the right cause for the wrong reasons. Just like Black Lives Matter. The slogan is appropriate, it's correct, it's moral, it's righteous. But did the organization with that name go about it for that reason? Absolutely not. And they're never going to. They can't. It's the same thing here. So I wanted you all to know and understand that as we go through this phase in which many of you are shunning the ones in the West because you know they're bad news. And all of you can't leave the West, so that means a lot of you are actually exercising discipline and self-restraint in the West. And as you are doing this, understand that there are going to be dudes that are going to come along and they're going to try to fill in those gaps because they know what's going on and you in whom they are interested. I'm not saying that every guy that's interested in men is going to do this. It doesn't have to be every, as I've stated before. The ones that will do this, they're going to be hyper available. They could be available to multitudes of you. Why not? It's just like a thought. A thought is available to too many men. So every guy has a higher chance of being involved with a thought than with a chaste woman. It's always like that. And this is like that in this case. It doesn't matter if it's only 1% of such inclined men or if it's 100% of such inclined men. Meaning when I say inclined, I mean inclined to their own gender. Doesn't matter what percentage it is. They're going to spread themselves amongst you evenly. Most men are not going to go along with this and accept that. That's true. But based on the sheer population numbers, even before you get down to just who is a young single guy, based on the sheer population numbers, there are going to be those of you that will go along with it. Some have already talked about this in comments underneath my videos. Yeah, black man, I be digging. No, don't, man, get on out of here with that BS. I'm letting you know they're coming. I mentioned this before, and I think Hammerhand also might have mentioned this. They're coming. It could be 20,000 of them across the country. They're coming, though. It could be 2 million of them. Whatever the case is, they're coming. I'm just letting you know. I want you to understand and be ready for that, because, like I said, black manosphere, we can't afford that. If someone chooses to go that route, they can't be black manosphere anymore. And if somebody comes along and is able to show evidence as to who I am, and that being somebody that's taking up that option, then that means you can't even take from me anymore. Now, if somebody comes along with evidence, it's going to have to be a lie. They're going to have to misidentify me. They're going to have to do that. And I'm going to speak in my own defense. But until I can show evidence that that's not the case, you got to suspend even taking from me, if that's what it comes down to. And I say that largely because they're going to do that. Somebody's going to come along with that in mind. But it is so important that they cannot become a contingent of the black manosphere, that I'm sitting up here telling you this now, even though there are going to be some people who are going to be inclined to try to misidentify me as one of them, just to discredit me, because they get extra points for that. I'm vaingloriously proud of you young brothers, but I do have to ask this question: what the hell took so long? And when I say you young brothers, you guys are young. You did it as soon as you were old enough to, but to the guys my age, I have to ask, what took so long? Especially if you knew me, you know who I am, and you knew me back then, what the hell took us so long? And I have an answer to that. I just don't think that answer is satisfactory if you ever heard any man preach this back then. Because a lot of y'all said, well, you know, man, you can't sit back and wait on them to come to you. Yeah, okay, fine. Then don't wait. Don't wait on them to come to you if that's the case. Yeah, man, well, you got to go up to them. You got to have game. Okay. And the harder you try, the more demanding they become. So why do you keep trying so mother cuss word hard? At what point do you pull back and make all of them stop and look at what they want? This has happened now, but understand, even with this positive trend, it has happened too late for some people, and the damage is done, and it is permanent. And I'm not even talking about the damage to the women. I don't fibber about the ones in the West. Actually, I take that back. I do fibber. I want them to go through what they're going through now. Abandonment. Having to do it all on their own. I want them to go through this, because that's actually better for the well-meaning women. And it makes it easier for the well-meaning women to stop standing so close to the other ones and stand the buck back and differentiate themselves. I want them to take advantage of this. And as a matter of fact, I want those women to get on planes too and go to these second and third world countries and live under normal men from these countries who don't have any extra money, and be submissive to them while they're young, cute, fit, feminine, and friendly. Yes, I want them to give all in exchange for very little materially. I'm talking about the good ones. It's not because I hate them. It's because that's what's realistic. It's because that's what's going to make it work again across many societies. That's why. I'm not saying that they need to go and pick out a bum, but they wouldn't do that anyway. Unless, of course, there's a non-bum who's also well paid that's funding that, so that they can give to the bum. Now, then they will, but I'm not talking about that situation. But we got to be honest, guys. You're doing the right thing now. Hats off to you. But it took too damn long. Especially for those of you that when you were in your teens, ever heard anybody preaching this stuff and you still didn't go that route back then and you waited till now. Still took you too long. Should have been faster than that. I hope this message has been a benefit. Thank you for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum. I'm black, heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it in the black patriarchy till extinction of judgment day. Thank you for flying again with me on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with me till the wings and the wheels fall off. Justice forever.